Hello, everybody. Welcome back to MVE Critiques.
Damn.
I got you guys. One more time.
Stay. Was all like, oh.
God damn. Welcome back to MVE Critiques. We're here to discuss the wonderful, the illustrious, the amazing Lovecraft country. It was a movement for Black people. And here with the panel. First off, I'm Alex, or you can call me Space Boy. And
I'm Candace.
I'm Tatyhana.
Christian.
So we're going to give a little tidbit of information on each episode, but we're going to review the whole season. So who would like to lead us in discussion?
Christian said he wanted to.
God damn.
Y'all talk to us.
Well, let's talk about the, are we talking about like...
What you thought about the whole season? The show?
Well, I feel like I like how they try to like build around the Jim Crow era, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? During like where segregation was at its peak. And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of like, yeah, I just feel like, you know, it did fit what was going on. You know what I'm saying? With like blacks and whites. But I did really like the show, you know what I'm saying? So I did.
Just keep talking, sir.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I thought about it. I definitely think that. Oh, go ahead.
No.
You finished like you done. I'm just saying, I like the show, so
I like the show. I'm gonna leave it at that for now. So go ahead.
Okay. So I think that it was definitely, like Christian said, a nice spin to the Jim Crow era with a black twist to it, and kind of showing us the transition of that power that was always there that we just had to discover and find within ourselves. I like that whole aesthetic to it. I like how they were able to put a lot of discrimination and like racial stories and just I don't know, creative content around just a lot of myths and things going on that were definitely negatively towards blacks, and play it to their advantage by showing us that people can rise above a lot of things. And I liked it, and I just genuinely think it was great, and I'm excited for season 2. I hope that they will season 2.
Oh, matter of fact, I'm glad you said that too. What was I saying something?
Because you were never about to say something.
I was about to honestly say, like, even with like the realistic, historical events that our ancestors or the elders actually went through, I love how they like put like a little imaginary twist to it, like even with like the slip.
Razzle dazzle.
A little thought on the meat.
Just a little razzle dazzle, a little soft bag, you know what I'm saying? So even like doing like when, cause honestly everything, like the story did start doing like in the 1800s, right? Like with the slave master was like the head honcho.
The 1800s?
I mean, I feel like it kind of like when slavery was at its peak.
Maybe the 1920s. When was the
because we talking about because Tobias.
Because it was going back and forth.
Are you trying to talk about the root, like with the
ancestors coming? No, but wait, because it went before Tulsa. It went before Tulsa because his not his mother, his great grandmother was still a slave.
So that's why I said
so
1800s. Even when his so-called grandfather, the slave master was like practicing magic. You know what I'm saying?
They went through.
It's like shows like magic was going down. Like past doing like with the white folks, and how it got merged with black people because he was sleeping with the slaves and stuff like that. I had to say, let's be honest about it. So it's just funny, like how how we kind of like got inspired with it.
What was you gonna say?
I might be looking. I might be looking from a different angle. So just
no. I mean,
I
thought Lovecraft was great. I'm a sci-fi nerd, so black sci-fi is the future. I hope to see more black sci-fi stuff. If you don't know what Lovecraft is or what it's about, it's on HBO. It talks a lot about witchcraft, not really witchcraft, but magic, witchcraft, sorcery, and it was very real to me. I feel like it was very realistic. I think stuff like this happens in real life. I think generationally, African Americans and white people, they dabble in the dark arts, and this show kind of shows how white people have been using it for generations to hold power over the world and using sorcery to control the masses. And it was great to see black people tap into their magic and be able to use their power to help their families and generations to come. With that, I love seeing black people overcoming and beating racism. And this is one of those, I guess some people might call it revenge porn, but this is definitely one of those shows where you can see black people getting revenge on racist white people in the best way. I'm talking monsters eating people and ripping heads off, and it's like, yes, every single time.
I ain't gonna lie.
And how they spent it, like how they spent it. I loved how they, and I loved how they spent the fact that the white people have, like Candace said, you know, there's been a lot of white racial people controlling the narrative for a lot of things. And they was like, you know what? All right, we're gonna figure out how to take their narrative and our narrative, and we're gonna marry the two, and we're gonna come back and clap back at their ass. And that's what I loved about it.
And to piggyback off of that a little bit, another spin, like within the title of it, Lovecraft Country, you have to look back and figure out who H.P. Lovecraft was. And he was like the most racist piece of crap that you could ever think of in the literary world. He thought of us as beasts, animals, and everything, like we were less than nothing. And to take some of his creations and his work and whatever and spin it around and put it to our benefit, that's the biggest bitch slap to the face I've ever seen in television.
Yeah,
and it was a big play on what's going on in today.
Oh yeah.
And it was, I feel like it almost was made on purpose. You know what I mean? That they really was like, you know, this is what we about to do, so we can get it out here, so people can know what we really been going through since way back when.
Right.
And I love that.
And I just feel like, because at first, when I first heard about the show, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't really drawn to it for some reason, but when I actually, like, you know, let me check out the first episode, like the Sundown episode. Now, I actually heard a lot about that sun shit. Like, I didn't know, like...
Sundown Town?
Yeah, like, for example, like, Dearborn, that was actually a sundown town.
Yeah, so is Inkster.
Inkster. I know Inkster, but I believe Livonia, but Dearborn, Michigan...
You mean Livonia?
No, he said he said you don't believe it?
No, I would believe Livonia, but Inkster kind of like...
Maybe that's what I was thinking. It might have been Livonia. I know one of those, Inkster, Livonia, one of those areas.
But Dearborn for sure, you know what I'm saying? Definitely in the 70s, you know what I'm saying? Before the Arabics had migrated. But yeah, man, like Sundowns, like that's what kind of like, you know, tapped me in like, yo, like this shit like actually like happened to our people, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be in a time at a certain time, you know what I'm saying? Niggas get off.
That episode gave me legit like anxiety.
Exactly. And like she said like revenge porn, you know what I'm saying? Like when the monsters like was like fucking them up, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
It was very satisfying.
I honestly got off.
And they did it in the best way. My favorite thing, the best thing was that you were watching it thinking that it was the predictable black, you know, thing, the typical racial thing that was going to take place. They was trying to cross through, stay, you know, the borders to just get into where they were supposed to go, to mind their business, avoid trouble. And the dude, the cop, sheriff specifically, tricked them into thinking that they got away, but he already called the next county on purpose to, you know, to just still screw with them and fuck with them and still come across. And so that image, I feel like it was really important to see the stress emotional and mental stress dealing with racism going through that time, and the fact that they were actually getting ready to reap what a lot of our ancestors reaped in that in the forest, no one around, in the dark.
Nobody.
You know what I mean? No one there, all because they trying to do the right thing versus, whether they gotta lie, tell the truth, just the mental game that they gotta play with, the racial ties to the police and things like that. And to see something like sci-fi in that whole I don't even know what they was. What were they? They were like
What, the monsters?
the dogs. They were like
They were like monsters that were in a book, but they were real.
Those were Lovecraft's creations.
Yeah, his creations. So if no one's watched the show, basically the show is Atticus. He's a descendant to Titus, who is like in this organization, which is almost
who was white.
Which is almost like the Masons. It's like a brotherhood, and they did like black magic and stuff, and they've been doing stuff
to black
the world, to controlling it. The police officers were doing it. They were all doing black magic, and it's been going for generations and generations. Found out he's a descendant, and he has birthrights to this guy. So his father is missing. He writes him a letter to let him know where he is so he can come find him, also leading him to his birthright. And so Atticus goes on an adventure with his uncle, who is a map. He does like maps for blacks who are traveling to show them safe spots where they can go, where they won't be hung.
Because he's working. He has a job. He has a job.
Yeah, he makes maps. Yeah, he makes maps for blacks traveling safe routes, basically. And so they go to just find his father, only to discover he has his birthright, and along with his birthright, he has a magical tongue where he knows he can, put these spells out to protect his family, and he learns his power, and it's all because of his grandmother. His great grandmother, who was raped by his great grandfather, and she took the book of spells
and the baby,
and she burned. Yeah, we won't go too much into it, but it's very magical. It's very powerful. Journey Smollett, she did an awesome job.
She did great.
Always did an awesome job.
Another underrated black actress to me. She's very underrated as a black actress. She's very good, and she deserves a lot more roles in my opinion, because she knows how to portray a lot of things that a lot of people can't convey on camera, and she's really good at it.
That whole cast
was
excellent. The whole cast was great.
And I kind of want to touch more on cause I just want to say I'm more into anime and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like Japanese.
Oh yeah.
Even when he fought in what was it, World War I?
Korea, Korean War.
Was it Korea?
We'll go that far. We gonna get there.
Okay.
We can't go that far. We gonna get there. He can't go that far yet. Started. So basically, when they get to the so basically what happens is he's discovering himself, and they get on the road. They recruit, Justice Smollett's sister, Journey Smollett. They get to the uncle, who is the person who creates all the maps for blacks who are traveling, and then they have Atticus, and they're on the road, and they're getting ready to go to where were they going to? I forget the name of the place. It starts with an A. Artem. They're out getting there. So they was on their way to Artem, because that's where Atticus's father wrote him a letter and told him where he was at. So that's where they going. So on their way there, they encounter racism. They encounter the police. They encounter getting lost. They encounter creatures. They encounter black magic. They encounter a lot of things on their way there. So as they're encountering these things and just normal things that us as black people go through in our normal daily lives, they ended up coming across Artem. Later, and pretty much Artem takes them in, and they like, oh, this is Artem. Oh, okay. And as they're there in Artem, they're discovering things and figuring out things like, okay, we're related in some kind of way, but how are we related, and why are we related, and why are we involved in this white family, or this white generation, and what is our ties to this generation, and why are we being drawn here, including Atticus and his father and his uncle and things like that. So
what's your favorite episode?
My favorite episode was episode 9.
What was episode 9?
Episode 9 was Rewind 1921. And the reason, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but whatever, it's the second to last episode. The reason why it was my favorite episode is because my favorite concept when it comes to any type of media is dealing with time. And when it comes to time travel, I'm all the way in it. But not just that, it's the fact that when we look at the characters, Montrose, who is Atticus's father, we come to find out he's a gay man, which Michael K. Williams can't do nothing but play, but he does it greatly.
He does it the best.
He does it.
He does it the best. Book him for all of them.
He does it great. When that glob of spit came down, I went like, nigga, really in it.
Man! Oh!
But
what? That was a lot.
The thing is, my main takeaway from that was acceptance. You still over the spit? You still talking about the spit?
Yeah, man. Why'd you have to bring up that part, man?
Because I'm going like, man, they really...
And they was really passionate. I'm sorry. They was really passionate. It was a lot.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go back.
No, the thing about it was they've always had this dynamic between each other where Montrose was hard on Atticus because he didn't want him to basically turn out like him. Didn't want him to be gay. He always hated him. It seemed like he always beat him and everything. And it seemed like that dichotomy between both of them, like they could never be important to each other. The only importance between them is to break one or the other down.
Well, in that episode.
But let me get there.
Okay,
But that flips it on the head because you find out that Atticus played one of the most important and pivotal points in his father's life by going back in time and actually being the guy that saved him when Tulsa was being burned down. He went back, saved his father from racists. It was like 4 or 5 people, whatever. Grabbed that baseball bat and just.
And they killed his lover.
Yeah, and they killed his lover.
But what I was saying is, to your point, even though that was a really pivotal time in the show, what I feel like why his father couldn't love Atticus was because his father treated him the way he treated him.
Exactly.
And Atticus got to witness it. That's why he didn't want to experience that, because he didn't want Atticus to know where his mental came from and why he was doing things the way he was doing it. But really, his father experienced his father treating him so bad because of how he was. And that was why he treated him the way he treated him, because that's all he knew was how to treat him.
Right.
Not necessarily saying he didn't want him to be like that. I mean, I don't want to say he didn't necessarily want him to be like that, but I feel like he just didn't want him to go through what he went through because someone didn't accept him for who he was.
Okay.
But he did it in a way where he made him understand who he was, but also have him understand why he was the father he was at the same time. Not necessarily telling him to make up his mind, but that's what I genuinely believe, because that was a beautiful moment in the story that married all the conflict between him, his uncle, and his father.
Yeah, because
and put that generation in
perspective. It wasn't really his father, too. That was another thing. Like, Montrose was trying to. He was beat into being who he was. He couldn't be who he was because of the time, because he's a black man. He couldn't be gay. Like, being gay is like an abomination. So he was beat into being masculine, or to pretend to be masculine, and all he knew was how to show Atticus how to be the man that he thought he was supposed to be, how to be a father. He had to pretend how to be a father, even though he knew Atticus wasn't his child, but he felt like being a father would make him feel like a man, because he knew he didn't like who he was. He seemed like he didn't want to be gay, because being gay caused all the problems in his life. So he was fighting against being gay the entire show, and he was trying to prove that he can be a man by being a father. That was probably like the only way he could show people that his manhood
was still there.
By trying to be a father. His masculinity was tied into fatherhood. Yeah, his masculinity was tied into being a father. So he felt like, in order for me to be a father, I have to be tough. I have to be stern with him. I have to, be this person that he's really not, even though. that's not who he wanted to be, and he was having secret affairs with people. It goes on and it goes on, but I thought that was a really interesting. I'm glad that they put that in the show.
I feel like that.
People are really sensitive. People are really sensitive to stuff like that, but like the reality is.
Do you feel like there's something we talk about that?
It is, because it's part of our culture. It's part of our culture to be 100%
black
transparent.
male gayness.
It's part of our culture, and to be homophobic in that way.
Yeah.
Even, your trajectory of being able to be gay but also having a lover but still being a male role model was what the hardest thing he was able to be. It was hard for him, and conflicted because he was, attacked back then, during, like you said, the Tulsa, fires and things like that. He had a lover, kid, everything. It was just a lot.
Okay, so let's everybody say their favorite episode, and then we can say if we think it's gonna.
What
do we think is gonna happen next?
Mine was when he was back in was it Korea with the nine-tailed fox.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that was Mimi and Day Sue. I think that's episode 7.
7, yeah.
And what was your favorite episode, Tots?
I would say my favorite episode was 1, because 1 set it off. 1 put everything. I wouldn't have watched it without 1. The pilot was done excellently.
I swear,
excellently. The minute I saw those beasts come out, I was like, "What
the fuck is it?"
I mean, it threw me, right field. You feel me? It was like, what was going on? So to me, episode 1 was where it was at. If you want to watch Lovecraft, episode 1 was one of those shows. It was one of those shows where that episode really caught you. And if you ain't hooked by episode 1, you're not gonna get the rest of it. So episode 1 was it for me.
I liked episode 7. Hippolyta went through the portal. Hippolyta went through a portal and she went to see her many lives. And I thought that was the dopest episode, just because, like I said, I feel like this show mirrors like real life. I'm just like a little sci-fi nerd type person, and I feel like that episode was so awesome because I feel like it was really true. Like, she existed in multiple realities and multiple dimensions, and she found the power in who she was, and she brought it back to current life. So her finding who she really was, she was able to use that to bring her daughter back. She knew that her being Hippolyta she wasn't just Hippolyta. She was Josephine Baker's backup dancer. Who was not Josephine Baker? Who was that? Josephine Baker's backup dancer.
She was a descendant from
Amazon
tribe, who was a warrior fighting, and she used all of those.
In the sci-fi that was brought into the alienness.
And her daughter made a comic book and drew her. Like, she ended up being that comic book character that her daughter created. So it was like, it was almost like speaking things into existence. Whoever you think you are that person. You can be that person if you just do it and believe it and speak it into existence.
I ain't gonna lie. That the episode when Till had like passed away.
Oh, that was crazy.
And the way they tried to sneak it in there too.
They did.
When it first came out.
They did.
I'm watching the show. I'm all like, nigga, I recognize that time.
Yeah, and he was
it's
like,
Ouija board.
Yeah, and he was like, am I gonna have fun on my vacation? And it was
No.
like, no. Yeah, that was lit.
Like, you ain't gonna have to have fun, bro.
It had so many good elements. But go ahead, what's your favorite episode?
No, I already did. 9 was mine.
Yeah, and you know what? I will say this. I do love the, what were they? The Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
They was the dancers.
The Jigaboos.
The Jigaboos, they was,
Uncle Tom's something,
they was great because they had a very, a very specific story to them as to why they were involved, and I just think that just tying in all this black culture.
Do you think it'll be a season 2?
Yes.
I will hope there's a season 2. It should be. I feel like Lovecraft Country deserves a season 2 because season 1 low key set the frame. Like,
there's a lot more fucked upness that they can mess with.
Low key, there's a lot.
They can
Like
keep
you said,
going from that era.
Like unanswered questions. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there's don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sad that like damn Atticus that died. Big tick. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So I think it could be a season 2 because I think Atticus dying is kind of like how Ghost died and we was able to move on, right? We talked about that. I mean, it took a minute, but I mean, hey, I think we could definitely move on from Atticus because he decided to set his destiny for himself, for his family. But I think there can also be a spin in the twist because there's black magic involved, there's reincarnation involved, there's a lot of things involved that have not been discussed, including Hippolyta's future, Dee's future. Why, Journey has this baby now. That what is she going through during the pregnancy? I feel like they can cover a lot of stuff.
If this show can get a season 2, then Watchmen is a season 2.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking it wasn't gonna be a season
Watchmen.
2 because of Watchmen. But hold on, wait, let me say what I
So
I don't think it's gonna be a season 2. I think it should be a season 2, but I don't think it's gonna be a season 2. And if it is a season 2, it's not gonna have none of the same people. I think it's gonna be a completely different story with different characters.
I like that idea.
It ain't gonna live up to season 1.
Follow me on Instagram at Calico, but replace that A with a V. So you have CVLICO.
At Tatyhana Blaise, TATYHANA, B as in boy, LAISE.
Candaceism.
You can follow me at Spaceboy __ on YouTube or Spaceboy_95 on Instagram. Peace.